Welcome to the 2022 Annual Town Meeting of Gray Cloud Island Township. I am the Town Clerk, Cheryl McCauley. This is the meeting that all townships must hold as established by Minnesota State statute. It is the meeting where the citizens of Gray Cloud Island Township vote on and establish the budget for next year. It is also the meeting where you can bring up concerns and suggestions for the operation of the township. This takes place under the general discussion item on the agenda. Before we start the meeting, I would like to point out that speakers are asked to come to the front and use the microphone to address the audience. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first order of business is to elect a moderator for this meeting. Phil Dupre, I elect. We have a nomination for Phil Dupre. We have a second. Are there any other nominations? All right. All in favor of Phil Dupre being the moderator of tonight's meeting, please say aye. Aye. There we go. Here's notes for the moderator. We've already got an agenda and all that. And I'm just going to point out these two couldn't make it. That's why I posted.
Okay. First order of business here, we got to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion we approve the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Second it.
Okay, we got a second. Is there any changes anybody wants to make?
Well, there's a couple of people that aren't gonna make it, it looks like. I would say Chief, Police Chief, Danberg, Educator, Andy McLean, Chief Building Engineer, and Connor Jakes, Code Enforcement Officer, isn't. And I don't see Matt Moore.
He's not gonna make it. I talked to Matt, he's not gonna make it.
That the agenda for tonight, Paul?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, we don't approve the minutes till right now.
all right. So it's been, motion has been made and second, all in favor? Okay, the motion is passed. We'll move on to the guest speakers. We'll start out with Karla, State Senator.
He's going to join me at the same time, if that's okay.
What happened to you?
Nothing.
Oh, you're gonna double team us tonight?
Can you guys hear? Yep. Okay, you're going to make me sit over here. I'm State Senator Karla Bigham, and appreciate always seeing everybody. This is a fantastic event every year to see everyone.
I didn't bring a pen.
I have 3 townships in the district, so it's always a busy night, but session feels like it's already May when it's March. And so we have a long way to go yet, but it seems like a lot of information's come. The one information we're all still waiting on is guidance from the federal government for infrastructure, and I'm not gonna steal Keith's thunder because he's on an awesome committee, the Capital Investment Committee, but you know, my priority when it comes to the federal money and infrastructure money is roads, bridges, and I know that townships can use a lot of help with funding to improve roadways. And the Office of Broadband is going to be another one. We're working on clarification on the details of what those requirements are as well. But I do know the Office of Broadband is very keen and keenly aware, as is Xfinity, about the access issues down here. They have been in contact. So we're gonna keep on that, and as soon as we get guidance, we're hoping to start seeing shovels in the ground for that, and also additional improvements with the roads, waterways, and stuff like that. Short of that, it's a policy year and a bonding year, and we'll continue to work on those issues, which will be done by the end of May. And really just working on sorting through the financing for the bonding bill and any supplemental budget that would come through, and then federal guidance.
Thank you, Senator Bigham. State Representative Keith Franke. I guess, not to double back on what Senator Bigham was saying, I think one of the big things that we're going to see changes with coming over the next year that's going to affect Gray Cloud is redistricting. The lines have been redrawn, so now Gray Cloud, St. Paul Park, and Newport are being wrapped in with all of South St. Paul, parts of West St. Paul, and parts of Inver Grove Heights. And I think that our district got kind of, personally, I don't even know how else to put it.
Screwed up.
Kind of screwed. One of the directives in redistricting was not to cross a river, but yet here we are crossing a river and dividing this district just about in half, when the majority of it used to be on this side of the river, now a majority of it is on that side of the river. I hope that whoever represents us in these areas will be as engaged as I have seen throughout the years, and we'll see where that goes. So keep your eyes out and keep on whoever moves forward. Go ahead, Paul.
What is the timing of this redistricting for 2023?
Yes, so the next election cycle will be the new lines.
This November.
Yep, this November, so then.
And that's for
whoever's-
both of your seats, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So now after this cycle, Karla will be in the new district, technically she will live in the new district 41, and I live in the new district 53. So Gray Cloud will become District 53, Senate District 53. The District 54, I think, is all the way now on the other side of the Twin Cities somewhere.
West side.
So, yeah. So that's a development. As Karla was saying, a lot of the infrastructure money and kind of like the senator was saying, you know, this session already just feels like a whirlwind, and it's because we have a $9.3 billion surplus. And there's, you know, we're being overtaxed on some stuff. The federal money came into play in a lot of things over COVID, which helped backfill a lot of things, would put that money in the bank. So we're having a lot of those discussions. On top of that, there's more money coming in for the infrastructure and things like that, broadband, roads, bridges. But we're still waiting on the federal government to get themselves together to give us guidance. Because we can't spend that money until we know how we can spend it. And then, which pulls into play, where can we apply that? I'm on the bonding committee, and we have lots of bills in. I think which would affect Gray Cloud tremendously at this point. A bill that we're partnering on is 3rd Street. We're hoping to get $5 million to redo 3rd Street, which will bring it all the way up, which will completely help, which frees up some money, which frees up, you know, just 3rd Street is getting so horrible with all the truck traffic and it's, yeah. So, but we don't know if we can get that, and we don't know whether we approach the bonding route or the transportation route or the federal money route, because we haven't gotten the federal money guidance to know where we can spend it. So we're waiting on all of that, but we just keep pushing through the avenues that we generally would push because we're unsure. So I think once a lot of that guidance comes down, because it's not only roads and bridges, we have money out there for mental health services. I'm the GOP lead on the Behavioral Health Committee right now, and we're seeing such an influx of money coming in to help these services and to backfill them, and that's great, but we're still not given guidance on how we can spend that money. And right now, just like in my business at the Park Cafe, I can't find help to save my life. We can't find help, and I was just having a discussion today with disability service people, providers. They can't find help. And there's a big difference if I can't find a dishwasher versus somebody who's taking care of somebody who can't walk. You know what I mean? So how are we gonna do that? And can we take this money? But I'm trying to make sure that not only can we fill those positions, maybe increase that funding with some of this federal funding, but where do we go after that? Are we gonna fall off a cliff? How are we gonna continue that level of service? Because eventually, one day, we're all gonna get old and we're gonna need somebody to take care of us. And we need to make sure not only do we have the positions filled, but we find the right people. You can train somebody, like I can train somebody to wash dishes. You cannot teach somebody compassion or caring or understanding or patience when they're dealing with somebody. So those are the things that I'm trying to focus on. Opioids, big thing. The ORC is coming out, the opioid response, whatever unit, another acronym. We love acronyms at the Capitol and in government. We just got a bunch of funding from the settlements from the drug makers, the lawsuits. Now, good thing is, unlike the tobacco money, this stuff, the money coming in from these lawsuits is not going into the general fund. So thank the Lord that we do not put it back in the hands of politicians. So it's gonna be specific. So in the next couple of weeks in my committee, we're gonna be having some meetings on that to get guidance on how we can use that money, because there again, overdose deaths are through the roof right now. I mean, exponentially. COVID has wreaked havoc on our society. And I think sometimes as policymakers, we need to be able to set some of that stuff aside and focus on the future. So some of my goals this session have been around mental health, our kids in schools, the isolationism, not only between our children and the interactions between their teachers and their parents and the stress levels, and then once again, your addiction issues. You have the isolation issues, and people not getting the help, and how do we go from there? And I want to be prudent with the funding, and we also want to be able to get back some of that money to the people who paid it in, the hardworking people who paid it in. One of the big pushes I think you're seeing, and I just hope the House comes along in this thought, do away with Social Security tax. That is a big push for our caucus. We can do that as a state. Without hampering ourselves. We need to invest in places where it's gonna do us some good. Public safety is one where we need to invest in and get those people in those careers the assistance that they need. I don't know, I try to watch myself sometimes, but on the discussion points, don't wanna get in trouble. But there's things like that. So that's where our focus is, and jobs. And we need to, right now, our employees are facing the cliff of the unemployment insurance fall. Now for my small business, I know I'm looking at a 15% increase because that's the max they can increase it. And we need to take care of that and not play politics with that. And
we already passed it.
Yeah, the Senate has passed it. In the House, they're playing politics with it. They want to attach other things to it. They want to, and I get it, and this is how things get done there, but sometimes we need to be able to just set things aside. And I'm more of a person that does things like that. Let's focus on the issue at hand. So those are some of the things that we need to focus on, and just bottom line tax relief but we also need to make sure going forward that we don't put ourselves in a hole, because I think right now, policymakers sometimes, and what really bothers me or scares me, and I'm gonna say this, and I'll say it to anybody, we had a redistricting year during a campaign year with a $9.3 billion surplus coming out of a pandemic. I mean, the discussions that are happening up there sometimes make me shake my head, because I think we're not focusing on the things we need to focus on. So part of my talking points when I'm talking to my colleagues is let's rein this back in and try to focus here, and have those discussions. So I mean, that's kind of where I'm at and the things I'm trying to focus on. And
I didn't know we were going through the whole gamut. So.
Right, I don't know. You know what I mean? You get me going and it's just like.
No, I would say this one. I think Representative Franke and I both struggle with the partisan rancor and just the toxicity of the partisanness that are up there. I think when you look at two people that want to get things done, you're looking at us. I mean, we're the example, I think, in this district of not only Representative Jurgens, but Representative Franke and I, where we're not of the same party, but we set that aside and we always represent the district. So couple things, I have 5 hearings this week, which shocks me because I'm in the minority. One about firefighter going from relief funds to the state board, which is a great bill, and that's now going to be included in the pension bill, giving them options for vesting as a retention and recruitment. I also have a bill to have tax conformity for the restaurant funds that the federal government gave out in the second round of stimulus, to have that conform to federal government so they would not pay taxes on those grants. I think the small businesses really, obviously, I mean, including present company, took a real toll with the pandemic. And to have to come out and pay taxes on that on a state level isn't right. So I have that hearing this week. And then I'm also on the Judiciary, Public Safety, and Civil Law committees. And I have a bill that will take the storage for body cam video from the locals, give it to the state to save money, and then also have the state auditor audit it versus having the local governments having to pay for that auditing. It's talking to the sheriffs. It's a big deal to save money. And then separately, Senator Duckworth has a bill for capital investment of body-worn cameras, which are very expensive. 50% of our departments in the state do not use body cams, and they're too expensive for these small departments. So other than that, really working on the retention and recruitment side of law enforcement, dispatchers, jailers, corrections, all are short-sighted. And really need help with incentives. So we have bonus payments, tuition, we have a bunch of initiatives, and hopefully we'll sort through all that. And then on top of it, holding people accountable for crime. So we have bills, and I have bills for fleeing, increasing penalties for that. GPS tracking of stolen vehicles to help with tracking down property, and a lot of other bills that are going through the process, which I'm excited and pleased about. So, but yeah, I mean, I'll reiterate, I know it's only March, it feels like May already out there, so.
This is supposed to be the easier year in
Yeah.
a biennium in a 2-year cycle, and just to
Yeah.
give you an idea, I get emails all the time like, why aren't you supporting this, or why aren't you doing this, or whatever. I think right now the House is up to 4,200, maybe by the end of this week, 4,500 bills that have been written and looking to pass into law. Now, some of those passed last year, but it carries through the biennium, but it's like, honestly, I need to focus on what we have in front of us and take initiatives, because we don't need to waste each other's time, duplicating stuff. Or I've seen 2 people, I always tell this story, I've seen 2 people on opposite sides of a party, either party, have an argument over the same provision, and they wanted the same end game, and the goals were similar, but since they were of 2 separate parties, they argued for 45 minutes. And it was like, if you stepped back from each other, you actually wanted the same thing, but we were trying to one-up each other, and it was like, come on, you guys. So I'm trying not to do that. I'm trying to, move forward, but.
And we know how it's going to end, and that's the frustrating part. We know UI is going to get done. We know there's going to be a tax cut. We know there's going to be, Social Security tax that can get taken care of. Why can't we just admit that and then say, we know this is the parameter. Now let's go into the details. But instead, we also are waiting on Congress to actually appropriate the money for the feds to give us the guidelines, which is going to hold up stuff, because people want to make budget decisions with all the pots of money available, which is smart. It's what we do in our own personal budgets, right? So, I think we're in for some long nights coming up here.
Especially at the end, but
especially after Easter. But we're always available. Call, email. We're happy to answer questions.
That's what we're here for. And if we can't get you the answer, we'll find somebody who will.
Yeah.
Any quick questions?
I got some, you know that.
Oh, I didn't even see you walk in. Dang it, I'd have wrapped up a lot.
I want to talk about schools a little bit. This past year I had to pull my kids from public education. We walked in for orientation and I was a 7-year-old and there's a poster on the wall that, you know, it says, if you're born the wrong gender, we can help you get it right. And I think that's pretty intense for a 7-year-old to have that by their locker. We have assignments going out, you know, here's an example. I am a nice guy, but I'm not a rude guy. So an example for this assignment is, if someone identifies as a Christian, but they are not a right-wing Republican, their sentence would read, I am a Christian, but I am not a right-wing Republican. Like, we got a lot of things going on in these schools that are really extreme. And Karla, I remember I reached out with you and I really never got a response back when I gave the teachers information looking for stuff. But I know I was one of those 400 parents that we had a racial equities vote for getting stuff passed, and we all showed up at the board meeting. We've all been involved at the stuff, and when you sit there as a community member with 400 people saying we don't want a racist policy adopted in the school district and no one else is there opposing it, but the school board passes it, that leads parents to do what they have to do, and that's pull their kids. And so what we're seeing right now in the public system is we're seeing enrollment, just mass exodus. The enrollment across the state has dropped, which struggles for me because I know I have kids' teachers that are really good. There's phenomenal teachers in the district, but when we're pulling our kids because of policies being created and passed by school boards, it leaves teachers underfunded, underpaid, lack of resources. And
Dan, with all due respect, we'd like to keep the topics and the questions for Keith and Karla to township business. These topics aren't something that can be resolved within this room. They're not specific to Gray Cloud Township. So if we could keep the questions and topics specific to the township, thank you.
Okay. All right.
All right.
You want to respond to that at all, Wade?
What's that?
Do you want to respond to any of that?
Well, I've had discussions with Dan before, so,
Yeah,
and I'll continue to have discussions
I
with
didn't
Dan.
think that was town because I do live in the township.
Because
said
I believe
did
it is
for 2 years,
township.
So that's why I thought, and I've reached out and I don't get a whole lot of feedback, so it's.
Right.
Anybody else have anything you want to rake them over the coals on? All right, thank you guys. Appreciate
All
you
right, thanks,
coming out. Wayne Johnson, Washington County Commissioner.
Well, I think after listening to Representative Franke and Senator Bigham, we understand why so many of them want to come and become county commissioners. They want to get away from that. So, Senator Bigham, before you leave, I understand it might be your birthday tomorrow. Is that true?
It is my birthday.
So I'd like to say happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Wanted to start off here with a few things. I think they're very positive messages. It's always nice to show up here and have positive messages. One of them is, how many people know what the Southwest Arterial Study was? So we had a few people that participated, and we do appreciate that. That is actually where it's going to be a road, and it was supposed to be 10 years from now. We were just doing the study, just basically getting something laid out for people for the developers. And that was going to be a road basically from 19 down by 3M across over, we're at North Point now, the development, and then basically winding its way down towards Gray Cloud and some of the development over there at Mississippi Dunes. Basically, the interesting thing is that was going to be a 10-year project. Guess what? It's no longer a 10-year project. And I think sometimes you can be good and you can be lucky. We got lucky that we started that conversation now. Otherwise, we'd be having real difficult discussions of how we're going to meet the needs that are happening in Cottage Grove right now. Where it's going to benefit Gray Cloud is it's also going to start talking about developing the discussion for 103rd and then underpass for the railroad, because that'll eventually have to be done too. So everything's been moved forward as we try to take care of that. So that is that. So thank you everybody that participated. The other thing that, another positive thing is sometimes when I became commissioner, I grew up on a farm. And I always believed in getting out in the field, getting out there, getting your hands dirty, and feeling sore the next day, feel like you've done something. And that was and I've done that since I've started, whether it's food, or it's been sandbags or stuff like that. And then developed into this. I remember we were sitting back there and we were having a discussion regarding the waterways and what's happened there after the bridge went in. And so we sat there and we talked around there, and you had drawings, we had drawings. I know you came up there to the county, and we're just like, well, we're seeing this. Well, our reports are saying this. You can sit there and discuss back and forth. And you've heard this saying, boots on the ground. We put butts in the boat, is what we did. And we had an invitation, and we appreciate that invitation. Let's go out there and see what's going on. And I was like, great, I love being outside. Never been over that part of it. A great opportunity. Wayne Sandberg, our Director of Public Works, brought some staff along. Matt Moore came along, and we got out there and took a nice tour. It opened up a lot of eyes. It opened up a lot of eyes, and to see what's actually going on. And so everybody, when we got done, I talked to Wayne. I said, we're going to start exploring what we can do here. So I gave some directives that we're going to start figuring out what's going on. And so then this last fall and winter, county staff and Watershed District staff have met with staff from Representative Betty McCollum. And I don't know how you feel about her politics, but she's been an awesome representative of our county. She has done so much for our county. When she's out there, she leads certain commissions and committees out there, and she went and got involved. And then we visited with her office, and I've visited with her, I think, a couple times in the last 2 weeks regarding different things. And to learn, and then so they learned to learn more about, and I'm reading this because you talked about acronyms earlier. They're getting longer and longer, they really are. Mississippi River Restoration and Resilience Initiative, which is MRRRI. Hopefully I got enough R's in there. So basically, and I'm going to have Wayne speak on that in a few minutes here when he comes up here. He's much more entertaining than I am. And then I've also personally talked to Representative Angie Craig's office too, regarding what they can do to get involved. And we talked about the Corps of Engineers, how they can help us with that. So there has been, and we've been looking for options. We have a great relationship with out in Washington. We have great relationships with those in St. Paul, and we're dedicated, and I'm dedicated to see what we can come up with there, because like I said, it was eye-opening. So finally, Congress is beginning to work on the 2022 Water Resources Development Act, not quite as long. This is the legislation that directs the work of the Army Corps of Engineers. I've directed county staff to work with the Watershed District and Matt Moore and to determine if there's any opportunity for us there. May or may not. Those who know, working with the Corps of Engineers, sometimes it's good to work, sometimes it's not. So we each have our own directive. So we're working on that. So what I want to do is here to explain more, and so you don't get too bored of me before I finish up here, is I'm going to bring up Wayne Sandberg, who is now the Director of Public Works. And so I think that was about a month ago now?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it. So as Commissioner Johnson mentioned, we really appreciate the boat tour that we had. And right after that tour, he said, let's figure out a way to bring some resources to the table. When you're talking about sedimentation of a river like the Mississippi, it's not easy to get those resources. But two things we wanted to highlight, and I'll leave some handouts in the back so you get more information on this. First one that he mentioned was the MRRRI. This is the legislative initiative that's being led by Representative Betty McCollum. It goes from the headwaters to the Gulf. It's meant to really bring federal dollars to restore the Mississippi River. It's modeled after the Great Lakes Initiative, which has been very successful and has brought tons of money to the Great Lakes. If this passes, we've been talking to our office, Josh Straka, the local. We want to really emphasize, let's get locals some dollars out of this too, so we can do things like deal with some of the sedimentation issues that Gray Cloud has. I also have two examples of support letters, one from the mayors of a number of big cities, including St. Paul, St. Louis, Des Moines, another one from the Association of Minnesota Counties. something we can follow up with afterwards in the next month or so. But if the Gray Cloud wanted to do a support letter like this to really emphasize the need, that's something that Representative McCollum's office would be very interested in. Commissioner Johnson also mentioned he's been talking to Representative Angie Craig's office, and they brought to our attention the Water Resources Development Act, WRDA it's called at the federal level, of 2022. This is what directs the Army Corps of Engineers to do their work. And we think it might be possible to get something built into this federal bill that would give some small study money and direct the Army Corps to research the sedimentation issue. We're thinking in the $100,000 range. So again, it's something we want to follow up with the town board on. Potentially be looking to talk to Angie Craig's office and see if there's a way we can get something built in to really give the Army Corps, bring them to the table on this issue. So just wanted to make sure that you all understood what was out there, and I'll leave these handouts and I'll throw it back to Commissioner Johnson.
Any questions at this point, at this break time? So, no, I think this is the kind of work and cooperation that I envisioned when I was elected and I stepped into this office. I think working together and deciding not to just talk to each other, but go out there and see what's going on and start working together is when opportunities like this happen. I found so much during my time here. I found out that there's a lot of options and there's a lot of resources out there if you just take the time to start researching and wanting to help. And I believe right now our relationship between the county and the township, I'm really proud of how well we are working together. There's been a number of different projects we've had up to this point. So one of the last things here is under pavement management, everybody's favorite. Last fall, Nathan Arnold from our staff worked with board member Polta to provide some information on pavement condition in the township. And then, and I wanted to use this as an opportunity also to check in and make sure that if you make sure you have what you need to make your decisions as you move forward. And if there's any further information or questions you have as we are there or as a resource and opportunity. So I don't know if there's anything that anybody had questions on that, or whether if you have the information you need. I know it's an expensive task.
I'm just have to come up with money.
Gee, look at the time,
I just had one comment. I read your comments in the Pioneer Press related to the Mississippi Dunes development, and I liked your comments, really focusing on maintaining green space. I really like you said, the boots on the ground, seeing the community, seeing the natural beauty for what it is. And I just would encourage you to continue to work. I know it's a balance between development and housing, but really, once it's developed, it's never going to be beautiful and green again. So I would really appreciate, your ongoing work to try to push that side of the agenda, not just the development side.
Thank you. That provides me some hope that people still read the paper.
Yeah.
I do that when I get the paper. I read it in the morning. It's just the way I grew up. So, but yeah, we at the county are always working for the environment. And a lot of land and legacy that I was talking about funding for that is protect waterways. Starting up north all the way down here, making sure we work with property owners that are willing property owners or municipalities that say we have some land we want to put away, we want to protect the waterways and all that stuff. The thing that's important to remember is the county gets asked to come in. We don't go and say we're coming in. And so I think that's very important. So when a situation like the city, who that is their land, Mississippi Dunes, they come to us and say we'd like to have help in doing some of the land down by the Mississippi, because Cottage Grove has always said they have the longest shoreline with no access, no public access. So basically they have said, can you work with us through the Land and Water Legacy to protect some of this land down here so people can have access to the waterway? Because I believe, I'm such a believe in parks and this stuff, and I mentioned it earlier when I was on with the House, Representative Franke was there. Having this open space and having kids go there when they're young and having this opportunity is helping them decide what they're going to think about the environment and the open spaces when they grow up. And I think when you're locked in the city, having this kind of, I grew up in southeastern Minnesota. I took it for granted. I walked out the door and everything was green, wherever I walked. coming up here and realizing there's many people, many kids that have no idea what a big, wide, open space is, what it's like to get out in the woods. And that's why I think Washington County's very unique, even with our campground, if you've never been out to St. Croix Bluffs. And they have a campground, and you get out there, you feel like you're in the middle of nowhere. And you have the St. Croix River. And so, and also I'm working on, if you don't know about it, if you ever use the ramp out there, the access to the river, I have worked with staff, and they've been awesome. We have found money through the ARPA that we're gonna get that replaced this year. And that is an
Pretty fun to watch people, that's a nice thing.
well, it is, but you know, it's a safety issue. It's the only way to get on the river, south of 94, I believe, and north of Hastings. So it's a safety issue. It's an equity issue because that's a free ramp. Once you get into the park, it's a free ramp. So that's basically, we need to take care of that. And I think that's been an issue for I don't know how many years. We finally, and that's what I love about the county, always thinking of ways we can get things done with the funds that we have. An opportunity came up, and the way they treat it, it's like once in a lifetime sometimes money, and we are realizing what we need to do to help people. And so I'm very proud that got done, because people going out there and accessing that river. So that's a great example of how we're working together, and really what my dedication to this district and how we can continue to make this a great place. So, any last minute questions? Otherwise,
I
you're
just
done
want to
with
say
me.
thanks for what you do, and I really wish you well in your election. You do a lot, I see on social media, reaching out to the community and everything, so it's really good. It's great.
Thank you. You know, when you love what you do, I think it's easy to do what I do.
Yeah.
You know, and I grew up with, on a farm, and I believe in a lot of things that we're doing here. I enjoy representing a county that has still, 40% maybe farmland, open space. And, Commissioner Miron is a farmer up in the north area. Him and I think, have the closest connection because of my history and what he does. We have great people representing us. And I'm glad it's showing. So, thank you. Oh, question.
I just want to thank you and Wayne and Cottage Grove staff and your staff for, paying attention. For you, those of you that don't know, since you opened the bridge up, our back channel's filled with sediment, but it's not just our problem, it's out in the river, it's Spring Lake, it's Cottage Grove, it's pretty much everywhere in the river. And our goal, I went up and seen the commissioner and talked to him about it. The next thing you know, we're going on a boat ride. Me and Dan took a bunch of them out. And, we didn't take them just for our channel. We took them to show them the whole area.
I was wondering if you're ever going to return us one by time.
And like I say, it was to open eyes. It was to open eyes to the whole area. Basically, all the lower pool was the goal behind it. And it sounds like you got the right people involved in it, because you need the core, you need the word act, you need money. It's more than that Great Bluff problem or a Washington County problem. It's a Dakota County problem, Hastings, everything. So, but thanks for going along.
One thing you should know about Public Works and our engineering is they are award-winning, both state and federal. They are recognized. So if it can be done, they're going to get it done. So that's the nice thing about Washington County. So, thank you.
Yep, thanks, Wayne. Is Doug Berglund here? Doug is with the Washington County Emergency Management Director. Are you the director?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Director?
Yeah, that's me. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate the invite to come to your meeting. It sure is a pleasure to finally be meeting face to face with folks. I see a trend here tonight of some positive topics and subject matter, so I'm going to continue that trend with a very brief 2022 flood update. So currently, all the data I'm about to give you is from the National Weather Service, but currently we are very close to average for all of our flood impact indicators, which measures the moisture content of the soil from the fall when we went into the winter, and the frost depth, and the snow water equivalents, and the amount of snow out there. We're very average to normal right now throughout, so that's a great sign. In the upper Minnesota, northern part of Minnesota, the drought that we saw last summer has seen significant improvement. However, down here locally, it's expected to persist for a while. So we'll wait and see what that looks like. The next 10 days shows a very positive warm-up trend for how the ideal snow melt that we always hope for in the spring. We're looking at daytime in the low to mid 40s and then nighttime back down to freezing. So that's exactly the recipe that we're looking for a nice slowly paced snow melt. So all good signs pointing in a favorable direction for us. A milder March for temps is also with a slight increase for the rest of the spring. So you got the 10-day forecast and then the spring forecast. All looks pretty good. So with that, it's a great report. Always the disclaimer at the end of these reports that it all depends on the amount of snow that we'll get here in the rest of March and April, and the rains that come with it. You all understand, having been here a river community for so many years, you know what this looks like, right? But for now, it looks good, so it's happy to report. That's all I have for tonight, but I'll happy to take any questions if there are any.
Any questions?
All right, excellent, thank you.
Thanks a lot. I don't see our police chief. No police chief. Martinez? Did I pronounce that right?
Yes.
South Washington County Telecommunications Commission.
Hi everyone, I'm Mark Martinez, Executive Director of the South Washington County Telecommunications Commission. Thank you for the opportunity to present this evening. It's been a while, so as Mr. Berglund said, it's great to see everybody in person. Previously, when I've been here, I've talked about the commission and who we are and what we do. Tonight, I'm going to present something a little different in that I'm going to show you some financials so you can see where Great Cloud Island contributes to the commission. Hope you can see some of this. So the commission is 40 years old, and we celebrated our 40th anniversary last year. We're comprised of 5 member cities. It's a consortium of 5 member cities: Woodbury, Cottage Grove, St. Paul Park, Newport, and the township. So looking at last year's revenue, our total revenue for last year was 1.7, and Great Cloud's contribution towards that was 3,700. And where that comes from is cable television subscribers. So if you subscribe to Xfinity, you'll see on your bill that there'll be a cable franchise fee and a PEG fee attached to your bill, and that's comes to our commission. Our commission is represented by 2 board members from each member city, and so Dan Oman is our current commissioner, and last year in 2021, Paul Diefenbach was also a commissioner. Jerry Talby was an alternate. So thank you guys for your involvement in the commission. So that was the revenue side, which was about 0.002% of our total revenue. On the expenses side, generally when I present to the commission, I break the expenses up into 2 segments, which is operating costs and capital expenditures. So our total expense was a little over 1.4 million for the year. Of that, the operating cost was just under $1 million. And so what we do when we talk about return of value is we take the revenue side percentage and we apply that to the expense side. So the expense that the township had to keep the commission going was just under $2,000. So there's a balance of 17 and change, 1,700. The capital investments for the year, we spent about a little over $500 purchasing new TV and camera equipment, and you can see it in the back there. It's going to be implemented here soon. In previous years, we've purchased the microphones that you see here and the AV equipment. And this is so that way your township meetings can be recorded and broadcast via our channels. We still operate 4 cable channels through Comcast as well as YouTube streams. The remainder, $1,789, went into reserves. Now the reserves are our actual savings at times, but other times it's investment in other member cities of the consortium. So for example, all the reserves pretty much that we had, or a lot of them, went to well, let me backtrack a bit here. You probably all know that the city of Newport has built a new city hall. One of the main services that we provide is we build out the broadcasting equipment in the council chambers for, again, for recording and playback of meetings. And we often put AV investments similar to here in those buildings too, City Hall and other city buildings. So the investment at Newport for the new City Hall was just under $200,000. Now, this is the benefit of being part of the consortium, because Newport contributes about $50,000 annually in revenue, but we expended $200,000, and that's because all the cities pitch in and help each other out. So when you get to the point when you want to build a new town hall, we'll be able to outfit it with new AV equipment. And another great way of looking at it is that the township contributed to Newport's new city hall. And so you can take a little bit of ownership in that. And feel free to use it sometimes. Say, hey, we paid for some of this. I'm sure it's going to be a really beautiful facility. We have challenges here, in terms of broadband internet connections. It's preaching to the choir. And so we hope that you can build out a new township at some point. That would be really great. And we also, want the township to pursue some broadband support from all the grants that are available out there. So let's talk about services for last year. Township meetings recorded and cablecast for last year was 11 meetings, and I also gave a couple years history so you could see 13 in 2020, 12 in 2019, pretty much flat. Another core service of ours is video production. We have done some separate video productions in the past. We didn't complete a video production last year. We're open to ideas about video. Video obviously is ubiquitous and very important. So we're open to ideas that you may want to pursue in a certain video piece that may highlight aspects of the township that you really want to market or reach to your entire community to tell, explain information, or oftentimes our member cities do, for example, budget videos where they talk about how all the budget departments are spending, the plan to spend the budget for the year. That's just one idea. We also, one of our core services is cable television franchising and policy. And this is where a lot of my job is advocating for the policy around cable television. That's our jurisdiction, is cable television. It's antiquated. A lot of it's changed, obviously. But we don't have jurisdiction over the internet. However, because we're so involved on the cable television side, we do have a lot of connections with Comcast and talk about the office, broadband many times with Comcast as well as the Office of Broadband. Last year, we spent some time advocating for funding for broadband with all these new dollars that are out there. And we're also going through the process of renewing our cable franchise. They're usually 10-year contracts. It's a lengthy process. It doesn't happen quickly, but we're in that process. We're talking to Comcast about the build out here. So as Senator Bigham mentioned, she's doing a lot of support and push on her end from the legislative end, and we're from the commission end also pushing from the policy end and franchising. And we also provide customer service in that if you are a cable television subscriber and you're having issues, say you have a down line on your property and you need it repaired and you're not getting any response from calling customer service directly, you can always call me in my office and then I can make sure it gets repaired for you. That's about it for 2021. Happy to take any questions. Yes, sir.
What, multi-part question. You know we've been trying to deal with Comcast and the internet.
Yes.
So, which kind of going nowhere, hard to deal with. What control does the County Telecommunications Commission have over them? You guys, I'll ask you a few more questions along with.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
we'll just to address that. Our jurisdiction, our authority is around cable television specifically. It's how it was regulated with the Cable Television Act in 1984.
Okay.
And so broadband and the internet is not part of that. It's regulated differently.
Well, that's not under you guys.
No.
You're just TV.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. However, because we work so closely with them, there's and because the technology's changed, it's still really just the same cable, really. Television and internet is coming over the same cable. There's still conversations, and we're still able to talk about that and push for it. But in terms of like pulling a franchise or something like that, or fining them, we couldn't do that for internet. We could only do that for cable television.
Well, then who's gonna, how, you might not even have to know. You see, talking in Washington about, you see Biden and everybody else that we're gonna get all this money for rural broadband, and we don't have broadband in Podunk, Minnesota. Well, there ain't rural broadband in the full 7 county metro area.
That's true.
So how are they gonna dole out that money on who gets what, and who controls that? I mean, to me, it looks like a free-for-all.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the cable stuff needs to be put under the Federal Communications Commission. Just like telephone, like Xcel Energy and natural gas.
utility.
And stuff like that.
Yeah.
They should think of the utility.
Yes. And our statewide association advocates for that. We would like to see it be regulated as a utility. Grants and funding is really about building partnerships. And so the Office of Broadband, the county, us, it is a free-for-all, but it really requires building relationships with those offices because it's complicated. Filling out grant forms are complicated, especially if it's the first time you're doing it. So there's a lot of people, we have a number of people we can connect the township to. Cheryl's done a really excellent job at building partnerships with the county and the state. That's how you get it done.
We must have applied for just about everything we were available for, right, at this time that we know of anyway?
I believe so, yeah. Any other questions?
I think
Sir.
Gordy has something.
This guy standing here, is he part of you?
Yes, he is. That is our technical manager, Lonnie Garland. He's makes everything happen for us.
All right. My question is, I like to watch some of these meetings live when they're happening on the
Sure.
internet.
Yep.
through the modem. Half the time these are not live, you don't get to see them for a day or so.
Right.
Can you fix that?
We've been trying. That's part of the challenge of not having a good enough signal here. Other cities are, for other cities, we have an actual fiber line connection directly from the city hall right into our office. And it's difficult for us to get enough bandwidth here. And so that we want to fix that.
Can you
Yes.
go overhead with those fiber optics, or do they have to be buried?
That would be up to the township. And I think we've been working on a.
Physically, engineering wise, can you do either one?
Oh yeah, you can bring fiber over the area,
You can
sure.
get this thing cabled up to a better area than it would work.
Yep. Yeah.
We take our donations for you.
Yeah, Gordy, for your information, right now, we don't even have internet in this building.
What's that modem sitting
It ain't hooked up.
Lonnie, do you want to talk a little bit about that? Or, no? Okay. Lonnie's worked really hard to find the solution, and he's still working on it.
Along those lines, I would like to thank both of you guys. These past 2 years, you know, with the pandemic and meetings going virtual, we don't have an IT department. You know, these guys were there for us, and even things like, how do I use Zoom? You know, they spent hours. And Lonnie put, maybe this is, I'm going to say at least 40, 50 hours into trying to get a hybrid meeting to work here, you know, so that we could have a meeting with people in person and people at home could watch. It just couldn't be done with the bandwidth we had, and then we asked to get it upgraded, and they said, oh, you have this free stuff that we don't do anymore. We're shutting you off. So we don't have anything now. So,
We can talk further about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it really came down to, at least today, it's quality, the quality, really. So because of the live efforts, they were, sometime it worked really great, and other times it didn't work great trying to go live. So I think we just made the decision, let's record it so the quality is good. You can see people, you can hear people, and it'll be on the next day, but at least you can see and hear, you know.
I figured there was probably a very good reason.
So that's a great question, yeah.
I actually tried again tonight to do it live, and I couldn't pull it off. I was close, but it wasn't, it'll last for a little bit, but it doesn't last for the whole meeting. So I can only get about 10 minutes and then it crashes.
Then between you and Cheryl, Cheryl come up with, what do you want, $125, $30 a month for internet or something?
120.
Okay, if we paid that 120 for whatever internet that is, would that enable us to do live streaming or
Our
not?
technical
Yes.
manager is saying yes.
Yeah, that would give you enough broadband to push a signal. We'd have to dumb it down a little bit, you know, it wouldn't be 4K, you know, but it'd still be able to view it on YouTube, thank you, and our channel.
Yeah, if we had a Zoom meeting here with half a dozen people able to get on at the same time.
That gets tricky, but yeah, we could probably figure out a way to make it work. At least get half of you on. You just have to share this computer.
Jake's just happy people are watching at home, they don't stop.
Yeah. Well, it was actually brought up at one of our commissions that they were having a hard time seeing and hearing what everybody was saying. And again, if you don't go to the microphone, it's really hard to hear you anyway. But I talk loud, so let it be heard. So we made at the commission meeting, I heard that, and so I made the decision, okay, we're going to stop playing around with it. We're just going to do it the old school way. And it seems to be a better fix now. People can hear it, see it. It looks better. So that's the goal for right now. Keep your fingers crossed, and we're always trying something. So
We put a can outside.
hey, you know, stringing cans. Huh?
You paid a little bit for St. Paul Park too, so go over there and tell them, hey, we paid for part of this. We're going to use your meeting space.
And those are always options, right? Because we have that. If you went in there, we could do it live. We could stream it. It wouldn't be an issue. So.
All right, thanks, Doug. Appreciate it.
Thanks everyone, have a great year.
The Planning Commission report, do we have one tonight?
I have it.
You have that?
We don't currently have a planning commission chairperson who normally puts the report together. So I just threw together some numbers by looking back at their minutes from last year. The planning commission last year renewed 4 conditional use permits. They reviewed applications for 4 new conditional use permits, and they reviewed 2 building permit applications. They also made an update to Ordinance 49, which is our zoning ordinance. The only thing it did was to adopt the Washington County Development Code. They also created and approved a ordinance regarding supervisor pay and another ordinance regarding right-of-way for the township. So that's what I have for the Planning Commission report. There are openings on the Planning Commission. If anyone is interested, please contact me. And being that we were just talking about the SWCTC, we also have an opening for on that. So if interested, again, please contact me. Thank you.
We have a cemetery committee report tonight as well. Are you taking care of that? Oh, okay. Oh, Patty, sorry, Patty. Didn't know you were on the committee.
I am, yes.
All right.
Thank you. Good evening. So I'm part of the cemetery committee. I'm Patty. On that committee with me is Al Shudka, Dick Adams. So our role is to facilitate with the funeral homes and the families of people that are going to be buried in our little cemetery here on Great Hall. So this past year we had 3 interments at the cemetery. One, of course, was John Waldo, who everybody in this room I'm sure knows. John's lived here all his life, same as me. Longtime resident, obviously. He's very active with the township, assisted as an election judge. He helped organize and run the Halloween party for several years. He used to participate in the cemetery cleanups that we would do every year. He's going to be missed by many, many people. His family had an open house here, a remembrance little service for him right here at our little town hall, which was well attended. Permanent marker for John is going to be set in the cemetery sometime here in early 2022. I would add that his family would like to make a contribution to our cemetery fund. So I'll be letting you know when they're going to send a check. And all these were cremations that happened this year. Another one was Sherry Jo Keene. She was a Reynolds, so she was the daughter of Don and Donna Reynolds, again, longtime residents of Great Cloud Island. Donna used to be I think, on the cemetery committee herself. Sherry passed away in October, unfortunately. A tragic accident took her life. She was a car accident. She was a hit and run, but she was out walking. Again, her marker will be put in place here in 2022. Most of these deaths happened at the very end of the year when winter was getting set in and the weather was getting cold. Roger Lind is another internment here in the cemetery. He grew up in Great Cloud. He was in his 80s, I believe, when he passed away, so I don't remember him. I'm sure my parents would have remembered him, but he grew up with his brother down here at the cemetery. One interesting thing this year, we had 2 headstones that were put in place in the cemetery for Civil War veterans. Very interesting. There was, one of them was for Anthony Bush, one of them was for Francois Turpin. There was also a rededication ceremony for the Civil War veteran graves at the cemetery that took place in September. It was a Civil War Honor Guard conducted a traditional Civil War graveside service, dedicating those 2 new soldier grave markings of Anthony Bush and Francois Turpin. Both of them were Native Americans, which, they hadn't been recognized as Civil War veterans for many, many years, just simply because they were Native Americans. So that was really a cool ceremony. That was down at the cemetery. A book came out in 2021 about our little cemetery, Buried History, the Early Families of Great Cloud Island Cemetery. So that was published, I can't remember, yep, there, I knew he'd bring a copy. I should have brought my copy, but I forgot. It's a really interesting read about the very early families of Great Cloud Island. None of who are sitting in this room right now. Those would include the Bushier, which were the Bush family, the Brunels, the Labath, some of those really old markers that when you go down to that cemetery at the Turpins, when you go down there and you see all those baby Turpin markers. So it is really an interesting book, and that information in that book was tireless efforts that were put together by Donna Reynolds, Naomi Purvis Adams, Amy McVie, and John and Candy Severson. John and Candy Severson, John Severson is a descendant of Anthony Bush. So super, super interesting. If you wish to obtain a copy of that book, you can contact the South Washington Heritage Society. Not South Washington County, but the South Washington Heritage Society in St. Paul Park. Andy Finfinger is continuing to do a fantastic job for us in taking care of the cemetery, mowing it and whatnot, and getting it ready for like Memorial Day weekend. I anticipate that we will have a Memorial Day service down there this year. Since COVID has lessened up, I'm pretty sure that the American Legion will come down there. I am going to try to I'll take a look at the cemetery when the snow cover is all gone, and we might try to hold a little cleanup down there as far as, raking out the leaves. They really get compiled against the fences. Last year, Andy and I were down there he was mowing and I was trying to rake out along the fences where all the leaves and brush had blowing up. So, but I'll let Cheryl know about that, and we can add that to a Saturday morning calendar maybe, and anybody can come down, and I'd welcome anybody's help with that. And that's it.
That's it. I have one question about the cemetery, something that bothered me ever since I was a little kid. Is it really haunted? Just checking. I didn't know if there.
Down there all my life. That is not true.
Thanks, Patty.
It's only when people, put things down there to try to scare other people. All right, thanks.
Now, I would like to say something about this book, that
Okay.
Patty just talked about. This is a nonprofit book, and once all the publishing costs are covered, the profits will come to the township for use in the cemetery, for maintenance and repairs.
Oh, wow.
So, it's
Who publishes it?
pardon me?
Who published it?
Well, it was published by a printer in Hastings, actually, is where it came from. But the bottom line is, I say we, because I'm involved too, but we're very close to the point where it will be making a profit. And because it's was partly funded by the South Washington County Heritage Society, which is a nonprofit. So any of the proceeds, once all of the printing costs, the proceeds will be dedicated to the township. So if you know anybody that wants a pretty nice $20 book that covers the early 1800s to approximately 1940, early 1940s. This is a pretty good read. And I have copies here tonight if anybody, they're $20 if anybody wants to buy them.
Wow. Thanks, Dick. Weed inspector?
Our weed inspector resigned.
Oh. Is that Tom Bell?
Yes, Tom resigned.
I nominate Jeff.
So, again, if anyone is interested, please contact me.
Come on, Jeff, step up.
What does the weed inspector do?
You don't have to smoke it, I can tell you. Basically, the weed inspector, just, you gotta know what's not.
What's a weed and what's not.
And drive
No,
around
actually-
the township and see if you see any.
Yeah, I'll let you know if I see any buckthorn around.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tom did drop off some documentation for me if you are truly interested.
I will take that under consideration. It sounds interesting.
Okay. Well, you have till the end of the meeting to
Oh,
decide.
until after the meeting. I gotta speak now.
then we'll vote on it. Is there any other committee meetings? Anybody else have anything? Okay, let's move on to the annual meeting minutes from March 9th, 2021.
I'll make a motion to approve the, annual meeting minutes of March 2021.
I'll second.
Okay, Paul has made a motion to approve the minutes. Then we have a second. All in favor? I don't know if we need that, but. Okay, the Board of Audit report as posted. We can request a motion to waive that reading.
Motion to waive the reading.
Second.
Okay, motion was made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Treasurer's report.
That'll be me, just 1 second. Okay. Does everyone have a copy of the Great Cloud Island Township? It says monthly financial report, but then it says fiscal year 2021. And since our treasurer is not here, I'm just going to go over it. If you have any questions, hopefully Paul or Dick or Dan can answer them. We started with a beginning balance last year of $65,746. Expenses came to $217,934, giving us a negative balance of $152,188. However, we had revenue of $231,853, leaving us with an ending checking account balance of $79,665. Looking at investments, it looks as though they increased even though we withdrew $30,000 in 2021. And let's see, expenses were down compared to 2020. And that is because in 2020 we transferred $200,000 from the town hall sale to the investment account. And in 2020, road repairs were $140,000 higher. Revenue was down, but that's due to the town hall sale. As far as the fund balances go, it looks like we overspent general purpose by $11,745. We overspent public safety by $2,500. And road and bridge, we underspent. For the year ending, we overspent by $13,530, which the treasurer does not think is a big deal. That's what I've got.
Okay, do we need to make a motion to approve that, or just?
I don't see a motion here that we need to.
Okay.
This is just facts. It's not really, doesn't really change anything, so we don't need a motion.
You can't approve it, they're just facts.
It's just facts, simply the facts. Okay, moving on to the road report summary of 2021. There's a report available on the table. Is anybody, want to talk about that? Anybody? 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 Nobody?
Did we unload the fire, the plow truck?
What happened to it?
We're done with that, but that's this year.
Pardon me?
That's this year, but we're done with that. They've got the truck.
This year?
Yeah.
Was it
2022. So I can speak briefly on that. There were some concerns about it, so the title has a lien on it from us, and he's paying us with Stonewall.
Yeah, but we're liable if we're the registered owner, we're liable.
No, we're not.
We're not?
He has the title,
Oh, you transferred the title?
yes.
Oh, that's all I care about. That's, yeah,
Yeah.
Bill?
That's all I care
We need a motion to waive the reading of the program bridge.
I'll make a motion to, how did you say that?
Waive the reading.
Waive the reading of the road
I'll second it.
report.
The road report. Okay, a motion was made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we got a chairman's report.
Yeah. Well, during the tail end of the COVID-19 epidemic, several meetings of the town board were held virtually in 2021. This was passed by resolution 2021-01. In-person town board meetings started up again in July. Congratulations to welcome was given to our two new town board supervisors, Dick Polta and Dan Holman. Thank you. Town board hired a planning firm, SHC, to review mining regulations and set up an administrative permit for the township annual mining permits and to review the 5-year Washington County mining conditional use permit. Also, SHC suggested setting up an advisory group to review the two north properties. Ted Reese, wife Christina, and Jeff Moore, Tanya Hodge. And that advisory group didn't seem to last as long as I hoped it would, but we're still working on it. The Planning Commission Chairman, Cliff Rodall, and subgroup of the Planning Commission were met often working on cleaning up some old ordinances. The town board thanks Cliff and the subgroup for taking on that task, and that included you too, Cheryl, didn't it? 3M settlement kind of landed in my lap, but mostly the settlement agreement for 3M is looking at city municipal water supplies. Not much of anything for the township other than if you have those filters in your house, they will be funded for the next 100 years. That's good enough. So the new CUPs issued, I had two, the dog boarding and landscaping business, and 3 CUPs applied for regarding the short-term rentals. Our township attorney made recommendations including creating an ordinance which then will be used to issue licenses for what we call short-term rental properties. Several were considered, and several city ordinances were considered, and we settled on Marine on St. Croix as the best fit for the township. That's what we modeled. Basically modeled our short-term rental property ordinance. The 2021 aggregate industry mining permit was approved. The 2021 annual meeting was held virtually to select the moderator, and then we held it in the middle of August, which was a really good idea because we could do it in person. And several discussions with the town board regarding using Washington County Sheriff for policing the township. that's much closer now, and I think do we want to discuss that tonight here?
The sheriff thing,
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, because the last meeting, we had to get it on their budget, so the last meeting, we did vote on switching from St. Paul Park Police to the sheriff's office because they must provide us free of charge policing duties. Don't confuse us with what happened in Newport, because Newport was a change of police that cost them money. They're not a township. Every township that we know of in Washington County has the sheriff doing police functions. Again, that saves us, but that money we save is intended to be going right into roads. So that will start in January 2022. So that's when we'll start to recognize those savings.
Paul?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can barely hear you. Do we still have St. Paul Park for the remainder of this calendar year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Because we had to get it on because their budget talks would be already happening by now. So they can add us into their budget talks. Yeah. Well, we heard a lot about the boat ride tonight. I would just like to thank you two boat captains for doing that. Really appreciate it. Yeah, it was
Tough day on the water,
So that's really all I have for the report. Any questions? Any questions of what we got going on right now? Because we have our March meeting tomorrow night, so we've had 2 meetings this year.
I have two, but already answered.
Okay, go ahead, Ken.
So we had last year's annual meeting in August. Is there a reason we have it in the frigid cold? Or we put it to,
Well,
or July?
we do want to get the budget.
No, state statute dictates that it's held on the second Tuesday of March.
Yeah, and that resolution was for COVID-19.
Yeah.
So, any other questions?
Dress warm. Put a
Yeah,
shirt
dress
on. Thanks, Paul. I'm gonna open it up to some general discussion on township business,
Okay, just a couple things.
what do you got? I'm surprised to see you up here.
Yeah, I know. Most of you know all about the roads. Anybody had questions on the roads and what we did or what we didn't do or the money on it? Go ahead.
I'm just wondering about this thing that we just talked about, they waived the reading of it. Maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but it says road work needed in 2021 as follows. Is that supposed to say 2022?
No, what that was us 3 town board supervisors went on their so-called annual road review. And we wrote down our wish list, what we thought we should be done.
Last spring.
That was last spring.
Okay.
And what would happen after that was, we've got a few conflicting reports on what we should do with our roads. Okay, try and make it simple. A few of the so-called professionals we went with at first told us to seal coat the roads, they'd last so much longer. Then it seemed like everybody else we talked to told us our roads were in such poor shape that it didn't pay to waste any money to seal coat them or do anything with them. So a couple of the things we want to do is fix the inside corner down here on Island Drive and inside corner on Pioneer over by your house. And we got the prices back for what we wanted to do on what was 40-some thousand, Paul?
Well, all of that.
Yeah, whatever it was more than we wanted to spend for what we figured we were gonna get done. Okay, then as time went on, we got more information. And so what we ended up doing was some spray patching on holes here and there. We didn't do any seal coating. The only 2 roads we have in the township that belong to us that we figured were worth putting any money into is Great Cloud Trail, which didn't need anything done, And Geneva, because it's relatively new and had a bunch of cracks on it, so we had that crack sealed. That cost us $4,000. So now, and we were in our budget thing, you know, how much we could spend, because and quite honestly, roads have been underfunded for a number of years. Okay, just to give you an idea how much stuff costs, I brought this along. When they repaved Geneva in 2018, that cost $117,000. So, you know, and when Great Cloud Trail was done, no, this was split in half because part was St. Paul Park, but just give you an idea what roads cost. This was in 2020. That road was $320,000. So, you know, if we wanted to do, you know, we're just, would take a wild guess, if we wanted to do Island Drive over there, it's probably double what the trail costs. So you're probably over $500,000. Well, if we only put away $70,000 a year, that's 7 years worth of putting money away just to do one road. You know, so I mean, it takes a long time to build it up. So we have to sit and figure out what we're going to do this year. We haven't done that yet. We've talked a little bit about it, and probably the worst road, let me back up again. So we're looking at the fact that the other roads we got are not worth seal coating. It's not worth spending the money on putting it in. It'd be a waste of money, in our opinion, and other blacktopping people. The worst road we got in town is 105th, and that triangular corner down there. So I haven't asked them to, actually asked Dan once. I said, what we should do this year is just see what would it cost us to take care of 105th. Tear that out, mill it down, re-blacktop it. Got to have some discussion on that corner with the neighbors down there. Some of them want it changed. And just see what that would cost us and kind of go from there and figure out what we want to do. So we really have no plans yet this year. So,
Well, I'll specifically ask for Lucina's corner there, right, when you go out and take that left.
Yep.
It's getting really ripped up.
Yeah.
And so is that a county thing?
no, that's ours.
Okay,
Yeah.
because it's pretty dangerous, because people, if they're not careful, say if a car's coming this way, you're going this
Yep.
way, you're forced over to the right, and, you know, I don't want to be blowing my tires out.
That's kind of what we're looking at. And well, we went down and looked, we really didn't see it when we were down there, the three of us, and I was back down there again. Well, there's a culvert on this side of it. Yeah, we were thinking filling in the inside corner. I think we planned on having them route out and add about four feet to it. Well, all of a sudden we're down there looking, and there's a culvert that's under there. Well, you're gonna run over the culvert, you know, so you're gonna have to do something with the culvert. Well, you know, so that's why I wanna look at that this year, is what I was thinking is, you know, instead of spending 30 grand, 40,000, don't go far in road repairs. Instead of spending money cobbling in the inside of the curve and that, what would it cost to do 105th in that whole triangular intersection, the curve, and go up the road, you know, another 100 feet and stop there for once. You know,
Well, I
so-
guess I'm not talking about the triangle by my house, I'm talking right here.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Oh,
talking
okay.
about.
Okay.
Yeah, there's two triangles,
It
yeah.
basically cost us like 30 grand to do a patch on it, or 40 grand, so we're thinking
Yeah.
we could get a bigger scope to put it into totally redoing it.
Yeah.
Spend pushing our money further.
So, anybody got any other questions on our roads, what we're gonna do? So, okay. The only other thing I got is this building, okay? As everybody knows, we sold it to Aggregate Industries. Okay, the term of our lease is up in 2024. In fact, I think it's in May. So it'll be in May of 2024, we're done here. Now, it does say in the purchase agreement, we can stay here 3 more years if agreeable to both sides. Okay, well, I don't like taking that chance, if agreeable, you know, because they might not agree, okay, and then we sit there. So what I'm looking at is, if we're gonna do something, if we're gonna build another building, we need to do that in 2023. So the decision to do that in 2023 needs to be made this year in 2022. Because we don't wanna be building, we don't wanna wait till 2023, make the decision in August, be building the building in the middle of the winter, if that's what we do. Or if we don't do that, we go rent, we go do something else, we use the library, whatever option. So, you know, if people got ideas, send them to us, let us know.
Well, I've got some stuff that's dated about 8 years ago or so.
Yeah.
when we first started looking into a new building, I've been sorting a filing cabinet that I have at home. And there's a bid sheet in there with a building outlay
Yeah,
for a new town hall.
yeah, the only thing that's, what, 3 years old?
Well, it doesn't matter about the age, when you take the,
You just got the
you
blueprint.
take the drawing
Yeah.
and you go with that,
You
you
go
know.
with that.
Yeah,
I don't think there's any money attached to it, it's just a drawing
okay.
of what it needs to look like.
What it should look like.
And so the sheriff's gonna get all this stuff here pretty soon. I'm still working on it,
So,
and
yeah, we've heard other people say, don't waste money. I've heard some say they want a new town hall, so.
I
It all goes
think,
down to budgeting.
Well,
I think Ted's place is available.
We can do that. His rent's too high.
so,
Anything else?
just a real quick one, I think we should ask AI to extend the lease.
We could do that. We could do that
Do what?
earlier and see if they would do it.
Yeah.
That's another option.
what was that, Paul?
Have Aggregate Industries extend the lease.
Oh, it's in the contract for a certain amount of time.
Right, but I think we're coming up.
Only if they approve it.
Let's ask for those extra 3 years right now.
What's that?
Let's ask for those extra 3 years right now.
That's what Paul's saying.
Yeah.
I don't know why they wouldn't. Would you?
Yeah.
Building.
Yeah.
Other than you guys pissing them off all the time.
Might be it, yeah.
Thanks, Dick.
Yep.
Okay, is there any other general discussion of township business? Anybody else have anything you wanna add to that? I'll just add some things, you know, with changing of the guard here with the police department, you know, next year we might see less activity with policemen around, so we gotta be more vigilant. We were able to, on Geneva Avenue, catch at least 2 perpetrators, one dumping off a mattress and another guy whipping around in the ditch and stuff, with the help of a trail camera, basically what it was. So we just gotta we just gotta kind of police our own self. You know, with the crime rate really going up in St. Paul Park and Cottage Grove, if you read the papers or watch any news, it's getting bad. You know, the schools, and I know you might not think this is township business, but we all pay an exorbitant amount of money to the school district, and that's part of the township. And the only thing that we can do is you gotta keep the town board, the school board at least anyway, accountable for their actions, what they do. And the only way we can do that as citizens is by voting, going to the meetings, watching what they do, but because it is an issue, and it is a township issue, I'm convinced of that. You know, I don't have kids in school, and there's a lot of other people that don't either, but the ones that do, we're facing some pretty rough times, I think, with our school board. So, you know, with that, is there anybody else that want to add anything to before we move on to the budget? All right, as you all can see up here,
Again, the treasurer's not here. So I'll
or
try.
in your paper, so.
So this is what we had in this year's budget for general purpose, was $49,195. And we decided to increase it by 5.7% for legal fees. We've had consistent legal fees for at least the last year, maybe 16, 18 months. Public safety, because the town board voted last month to go with the Washington County Sheriff's Office instead of the St. Paul Park Police Department, we were able to reduce that by, I think, $92,000, something in that range. So that came down 87%. This year's budget in Road and Bridge is $52,300. They threw in an extra, what is that, $70,000 for Road and Bridge from the savings we get by going with the sheriff's office. So that increased 133%. So our total budget for next year is $187,000 compared to this year, which is $205,000. So it's actually going down 9%. Now Scott did give me numbers. If we had stayed with the St. Paul Park Police Department and put $20,000 into Road and Bridge, the budget would have gone, or our taxes would have gone up 27.9% by just putting $20,000 in there.
So that would have been a budget of $72,000 versus the 120.
And he did give me information on that, and I have copies, if anybody wants a copy. So the levy then for next year is less than this year. It's going down by 10%. Now, if you have any questions, got Dick, Dan, and Paul.
And sure.
So what's the public safety, the 13,200, what will that be spent on?
Fire.
Okay.
We still intend to contract with St. Paul Park for fire.
Okay.
Our contract for emergency services is with Cottage Grove, but that's on a as-used basis.
That's
ambulance.
typically,
Ambulance, yeah,
that's typically taken care of by homeowners insurance.
yes.
And we're only liable for the excess if there is any.
I don't think we had any of them this year, did we, Cheryl, in 2021?
Not to
Not that I
my,
know of, not here.
I mean, we didn't pay for anything.
Yeah, we didn't pay any, yeah.
Yeah, it's either medical or homeowners insurance.
Maybe we should have.
Covers it.
Right.
Maybe we should have. I could have used it. I had a couple of
I
rides.
saw medical. In the
Do I get a refund?
In the police reports, they do include when it's a medical call.
Yeah.
But I have never, I mean, this is my 4th year, I've never received anything, any kind of invoice for ambulance service.
That means everybody's paid.
Right.
What was it covered by?
We used to contribute to the ambulance in Cottage Grove, but it was because we were, no pun intended, we were nice guys, and it wasn't mandatory.
Okay.
Yeah, it was all voluntary. Yeah. Okay, so we gotta vote on each line item here.
Yes, yes. You have to vote on all 3 and then the final one.
And then the levy.
So we need a motion to approve general purpose.
So moved.
A second?
I second.
Okay, give me 1 minute. Dick and Jeff, okay, go ahead.
All in favor? Say aye.
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 Anybody opposed?
We need a motion on public safety.
So
Second?
I'll second it.
Got that?
Yep.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We need a motion on road and bridge.
So
Second?
Who motioned?
Pam, you're correct.
Pam.
I'll second.
And Dawn. Okay, got it.
And the last one we need is the actual tax levy. So we need a motion on the tax levy.
So moved.
Second?
I second it.
What's that?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So we pass them all.
Okay, the budget's been approved. We need to have a motion to approve the annual town meeting for 2023. The date and time has been set for Tuesday, March 14th, 2023, 7 p.m. Do I have a motion to approve that meeting?
I'll motion to approve that meeting date for 2023.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion has been made and second. All in favor?
Chairman, I think it said March 7th.
It said March 14th. What'd you say about March 7th?
It should be the 14th.
Sorry.
Okay, what are we at, March?
Whatever date that is.
March 14th.
Did everybody hear that?
If nobody has anything else to say, we'll obtain a motion to adjourn.
Well, I'll be happy to do that.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks, everybody.